Hello and welcome to Afternoon Tea with Karen. Yes, we're going to have a talk about that.
Last week launched the biggest coordinated attack on parents' rights and religious freedom in Australia's history. If those behind this attack get their way, Christian and religious schools are to be forced to employ role models for children who support wacky and harmful LGBTIQA+ ideologies. Parents will be powerless, and it will end the authentic Christian and religious schooling in Australia. Homeschooling might provide a shelter, but as I'll explain later, no one is safe from the march of the rainbow flag and the totalitarian politics it carries. Now, since same-sex marriage was introduced in 2017, parents and schools have been left vulnerable to relentless, unfair public demonisation from LGBTIQA+ political activists and from politicians from Labor, the Greens, the Teals and the Liberal Party's powerful left faction. Last week's attack was launched by the Labor's Attorney-General, Mark Dreyfus, who tabled in Parliament an Australian Law Reform Commission report which recommended stripping religious schools of legal protections which allow them to employ staff who share their ethos. Now, a Christian school has to be able to employ staff who believe in what the school and what the parent community believes. That's just a basic tenet of freedom, but that's to be stripped under this radical proposal that Dreyfus has tabled. The title of his report is called Maximising the Realisation of Human Rights, Religious Educational Institutions and Anti-Discrimination Laws. And this title is distinctly Orwellian. Now, that's because rather than maximising the realisation of human rights, this report trashes parents' human rights to educate their children in the values of their religion, a key principle Australia has signed up to in international law, which I'll come to in a moment. Now, in this mad moment of history, if elites like Mark Dreyfus tell us something to be true, be sure the opposite is the case. The Albanese government, which through Dreyfus commissioned the ALRC report, wants schools to be forced to employ people who are opposed to their parent community's views on marriage and the science of gender. The irony of crucifying Christian schools in the lead up to Easter is lost on the Albanese government. Now, Dreyfus is not what Joseph Stalin might have once called a useful idiot for a nefarious cause. He is a genuine spear carrier, gladly doing the bidding of same-sex marriage activists who, since the law changed in 2017, have waged a relentless political campaign against Christian schools. Dreyfus's ALRC recommendations give no quarter to parents and school communities who want to shield their children from radical ideas like ones that say gender can be changed with puberty blockers and surgery, or that gender diversity no longer matters in marriage, i.e. that mums and dads don't matter. The ALRC report takes the false and pernicious view that religious schools are inherently harmful and that parents' concerns for their moral and religious education of their children must go to the back of the bus. Now, it's more important to Dreyfus that a teacher in a Christian school who dresses in kink and attends a bestiality-themed fetish party at a weekend Pride event, like that advertised by Sydney World Pride last year and funded by the Liberal Party, I kid you not, that such a person must be allowed to keep his job at a Christian school. An advocate of radical LGBTIQA+ gender ideology must be allowed to teach your children or grandchildren in the Christian school that you choose to send them to. The school community must be powerless to do anything about this. But the attacks on Christian and religious schooling are not just coming from Canberra. In what can only be seen as a coordinated attack by LGBTIQA+ political activists, the Queensland Labor government recently introduced changes to its Anti-Discrimination Act, which also strips schools at a state level of their ability to uphold a Christian ethos. Last week I mentioned Pat Byrne and Terry Kelleher's excellent but chilling analysis of this draconian law, which they published in News Weekly. I recommend you look it up and have a read of it. Christian schools are caught up in a pincer movement from state and federal Labor, egged on by taxpayer-funded law reform commissions that are pushing LGBTIQA+ politics. But tolerance is not a virtue of the love is love political crowd. Queensland Labor's changes also attack free speech, ensuring that where there is a clash Like in Mark Dreyfus's ALAC report, LGBTIQA+ political ideology must prevail over free speech every time.
So let's see what the ABC have to say about it. This was from the 20th, so we've had Easter in between, and I was a bit crook, so sorry I'm a little bit behind. The debate over LGBT staff and students. Where's the rest of the letters, ABC? Come on, you've got a queer department. You know, drag queen, story time, and all that. Anyway, pause and read. I'll just get to my favourite bits. So, seeking to get ahead of an ugly debate, Prime Minister Albanese said the government would not reveal details of its own plans until it first had the coalition on board. If there is not an agreement, then now is not the time to have this divisive debate, especially with the rise of anti Semitism and Islamophobia, he told colleagues. That's because the Jewish schools are cool with it, but the Muslim schools are not. So Peter Dutton said he's using the coalition as an excuse to ditch an idea that he doesn't want to get anywhere near. So, competing ideas of discrimination. Well, Christianity is not compatible with the rainbow. The rainbow is, is pride, which is a deadly sin. Plus, then you've got the queer people who follow queer theory, and that deviance is only deviant till it's normalized. So, directly not what Christians are about. Anyway, so that's conflicting ideas. There we go. This is pretty much the history. Pause and read. Then we've got Labor revisits the issue. Attorney General Mark Dreyfus here, which we just heard about. And we saw the draft proposal. Suggested schools should accommodate uniform adjustments for transgender students. Why would a transgender person want to go to a religious school when they could go to a government school that's got, the safe spaces and all their support groups and, their clubs and stuff that they would go to? LGBTQIA plus activist organisations were more supportive of the proposal. Well, of course, they get paid to be. So tomorrow, the final report will reflect the updated proposal in light of all this feedback. So, Attorney General Michaela Cash alluded to this issue when she warned the government of considering a blasphemy law. A spokesperson for Mr. Dreyfus flatly denied the government planned anything approaching this. I think there is some blasphemy laws going in, but that's in another act. Anyway, meanwhile, the Greens and other crossbenchers have suggested the government seek census with them instead, because of course the Greens are, you know, they are Queer Greens of Victoria. The Greens are the LGBTQIA plus organisation, the Socialist Alliance. So, of course, they want to do a deal with them instead. No, he doesn't want to do it without coalition. Anyway, next day. So, where are we? Updated on the 22nd. And still only LGBT without the QIA plus. So, several of the backbenchers revolted because they wanted transgender students to be included. The government has formed its own plans, but so far in secret. It's been shown to the coalition, but it will not be publicised until the coalition support is secured. A Shadow Attorney General, Michaela Cash, said the coalition had been shown the government's legislation but was unable to share it. So, what he wants is schools could discriminate in favour of staff who share the school's religious beliefs when it's reasonably necessarily. So, religious teachers, but not necessarily maths teachers or PE teachers. There we go. That's interesting. So, they got over more than 40,000 public responses to it. Some people were concerned that changes in the law might impact the ability of religious educational institutions to maintain their religious character, authenticity as a faith community, and their role as sheltered spaces from secular society. Some faith groups attacked the report. The National Catholic Education Commission said it was at odds with their religious freedom and the high regard parents placed on faith based schools. And President of the Islamic Schools Association Australia, Abdullah Khan, agreed the recommendations were a blatant attack on religious freedom and faith based education. If implemented, these recommendations would fundamentally alter the landscape of Islamic education in Australia, he said. Oh, LGBT plus activist groups, every day we delay this form, but these reforms, the students can't take their preferred person to the dance. No one should be allowed to take their preferred person to the dance, okay? It's not a make-out session, it's a dance. You're going there to learn to dance. It's formal dance. Take your dad. Okay, sorry, that's just my personal beef thing. You should learn to dance. It's good skill to have, like Latin. So you know that things like genus is where gender comes from. It means type, you know. What category are you? Anyway, what are the next steps? Yep. So the PM's not going to do any deals with the Greens. He wants bipartisan support so he can, I don't know, probably blame the coalition.
Hello everyone, my name is Renato Costa, this is Aussie Law, and today we will generally talk about the express and implied rights in the Australian Constitution. Moving forward then, the third premise that you should know is that Australia has some express rights, express limitations on the powers of Parliament to legislate about certain things that constitute the protection of human rights in Australia. These are express rights or negative rights and freedoms that protect the people against the influence of Parliament, or at least limits Parliament in the way they're going to legislate. And there are usually 5 so-called express rights in the Australian Constitution. Section 5131, the acquisition of property on just terms. Section 80, the trial by jury. Section 92, the free trade, commerce and intercourse between states. Section 116, the freedom from discrimination based on religion. And Section 117, which relates to state-based discrimination. So here's what we're going to do.
And if you'd like to know more about express rights, discrimination based on religion, you can go check out this guy. This goes for 10 minutes. I haven't got time to, you know, play it for you.
All right, here we go. I'm sure by the title of this video that you can tell what it's about. And I'm very nervous, excited, and scared for this huge step in my life. I've thought and prayed long and hard about what would be the best way to go about this, and seeing how videos have been such a positive form of communication for me in the past, I thought that this would be the best way. I am a Christian, and I am gay.
And because we're out of time, I won't play you this. But if you have a look, word to the from the left there is Connor, because Connor doesn't hang out in the rainbow. No, he hangs out at church. Yeah, because he's a Christian. Anyway, Jesus doesn't have an issue with homosexuals. Old Testament does. One of his disciples did. But, Jesus, he didn't have anything to say either way. So, yeah, cool. See you later. Bye.